And that is why I have the greatest hosts in the world who are willing to wait 20 minutes later than they should to start the show. And
Well,
thanks.
I don't know how willing we are, but
Yeah,
we just
you're the boss. We don't have much say in it.
yeah, we're waiting for the
No,
input.
no. You have plenty of say. Better shows without me.
Yeah, but I just hit the mute button when I do say it.
Right. No, absolutely. No, so it was good. It's great to be back. And it's a little crazy, of course, when you first day back. A lot of nuts so things going on, and then other stuff. But I did manage to wear my I Survived the 2012 Lockout T-shirt,
I love it.
which is with my Eklund meter, my optimism meter.
Has everybody recovered from their Easter Sunday food coma? Because I'm just pulling out of it right now.
I was driving back from Montreal, so I didn't have a big. What do you call it? I didn't have a big
Right.
Easter.
We
But boy, I made up for it with the food I ate the day before, though. Woo!
Yeah, I ate a lot of food in Florida.
So what was this? What was this that you had in Montreal?
Well, I did have some. I had some maple hickory smoked salmon that was out of this world. It's a hotel, the Sheridan Center, right down the street from the Bell Center.
Yeah.
Fantastic hotel, gorgeous.
Yeah.
And right next door there was an authentic Belgian restaurant that we went to for dinner. It was out of this world. Traditional Belgian food, which is a combination of French and German and a little bit of their own. Best French fries I've had in a long time, and they had 150 beers on tap. It was amazing.
There's a place in Buffalo which I just.
Because I knock everything over.
Plus, you give a facial to the camera.
Yeah. Son of a gun. There we go.
Plus, there's a Belgian place in Buffalo that I heard a rumor that it may be closing. I hope it isn't because it's actually a good place. But they specialize in their French fries. They're deep fried in duck fat rather than regular, like oil or whatever.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't eat that.
There's a Belgian food truck in Connecticut. There's a food truck in Connecticut with authentic. Because French fries are Belgian. They're not French. And for those who don't know, and they soak their potatoes in beer, and then they make the French fries. Oh.
It's a good choice. I got to tell you, though, the best French fries in the world are in Ireland.
Really?
I don't know. I'm going to go with Brussels. I actually was in Brussels and had French fries in Brussels, and I've never been to Ireland, though, so I can't say.
I was at a wedding, and they had fish and chips, and it was the best fish and chips you'd ever eaten in your life.
Wow.
I believe that. I know my dad lived in Belgium for I think 8 years, and as soon as I told him I went there, he was like, "Oh, I would kill for French fries and mussels."
Yeah, and French fries with mayonnaise, which is their big thing.
Yeah, my dad always told me that. Yeah, he always had French fries and mayonnaise. And sometimes he would have peas and mayonnaise. He's like, well, that's what they do it in Europe. I go, well, David Hasselhoff is big in Europe. Doesn't mean I have to like it.
Yeah, it's not like French fries cooked in fat, dipped in fat.
Well,
fries and mayonnaise are delicious, though. I will say that.
They are delicious.
This place in Buffalo, they do the what I was just talking about. They have different types of mayonnaise flavored, like wasabi flavored mayo or garlic flavored mayo, like different dipping sauces for the French fries.
Okay, but let's stop it there. You don't put French fries in mayonnaise. You don't do it.
Oh, I love it. Oh, a good French fry mayonnaise.
No.
Although a good French fry doesn't need anything, to be honest. A good French fry needs nothing.
Good
It's
mayonnaise.
either nothing or ketchup. It's not
Doesn't
mayonnaise.
need ketchup. No.
Ketchup.
Mayonnaise is a very polarizing condiment.
It is. It is.
Ketchup sucks. I hate ketchup with a.
You hate ketchup?
I hate ketchup.
God.
Mike,
Mike.
okay,
It's okay though. I know some people that hate ketchup, and then
Yeah, but that's crazy.
but mayonnaise on it makes no sense. It makes no sense.
And Russ has seen me eat French fries. I douse my French fries in malt vinegar and some salt,
That's nice.
and then
I go with that.
And then a typical Buffalo thing, because the blue cheese is there for the wings, I dunk fries in blue cheese.
Well, there you go. I have a
There's
good
nothing
friend
wrong
who
with
won't eat any potatoes at all. They think that potatoes are just the dirt. It's like eating dirt. They can say if they said someone told them when they were younger that potatoes grow and they just are dirty, and they think no matter how much you clean a potato, you're eating dirt. We couldn't survive very long. We eat a lot of potatoes around here.
Well, if you're eating mushrooms, you're eating fungus. So there you go. And I like mushrooms.
Yeah, I like fungus.
Sounds like you like just about everything, Mike. No offense.
Except for ketchup and Star Wars and some basic simple things that in life that you need to like, Mike. That's really just.
I meant food-wise.
Entertainment.
All right, so I did a blog today. Let's get into the show because the blog sort of fills into a lot of the gaps of what's been happening in the NHL as well, so we can kind of go along with it. And you guys don't look at the blog because I want you guys to guess.
Okay.
Some of these things because they're pretty interesting. So if you haven't read the blog yet, you're just watching the show.
Well, if it's anything to do with statistics, I'm not going to read it.
Yeah, it's a lot of statistics. Because I've proven over the years that the matchups matter a lot in the playoffs. So, and I wanted to prove it, so I finally found a way to do it. So anyway, here we go.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, but let's start the show now. It is the 28th of March.
That is correct.
Hello, Hockey World. It's Monday, March 28th, 2016.
I'm Michael Agello, and how about those Detroit Red Wings?
Bienvenue. I'm Dan Petru.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Tuto Earl. I am Eklund, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzCast.
I also listened to Russ' show as I was stuck at the border in traffic yesterday.
Oh yeah, that's funny. And then when you were stuck at the border, they said, "What are you listening to?"
Yeah, you cannot come in.
When I go to the board, when I go to Canada, it's always funny. Like, so what is? I write a blog. I write it, and what blog? HockeyBuzz.com. It's like, oh, okay. What's your name? This is my name. I write Eklund. This is my blog. They're like, well, wait a second. You don't write a blog with your real name? I'm like, well, I do. No, not well. I'm on. And then before you know it, I'm being frisked in Canada.
Right.
Nom de guerre is what you say.
Just go say you're on vacation. We're just coming up here to see some things. We just love it up here. Never go see your work. Never admit you're working in Canada. That's what I've learned. Never admit I'm also working up here. All right, so lots of things have happened. We are yet no closer to knowing what the hell's going on in the East. We're getting a little closer to the West, but the East is definitely still up in the air.
I think we're a little closer in the East. I think it's starting to clarify a bit. I mean, I think the 2 wins on the weekend solidify Pittsburgh's hold on a playoff spot. They have 92 points right now. Detroit and Philadelphia have 85. I don't see them making up a 7-point gap in the last 7 to 8 games.
Yeah.
I think so. And from an Islander perspective, boy, that was a much needed win against Carolina. But as I look at it right now, I think where they are is okay. Look, I'll take if they have the first wild card spot, they will be playing the winner of the Eastern Conference. I'll take my chances. I know they'd be underdogs, but I'll take my chances with the Eastern Conference and conceivably not having to play. Let's just say they make a run. They are talented enough. They're frustrating, but they're talented enough. Let's say they beat either Florida or Tampa or whomever. You avoid the Capitals until the conference finals.
Oh, that's true.
You mean the head of the Atlantic Division, right?
Head of the Atlantic Division. And you're absolutely right. Okay. No, and that is what my blog's all about today. Who wants to play who? And
I don't think the Caps want to play the Flyers.
No. Surprisingly enough, the Caps don't want to play the Flyers. The Caps, though, so there are, I'm going to have you guess here. I did this with 18 teams, okay? So I did all 9 teams in the East, all 9 teams in the West. I then figure out the winning percentage of the teams in the East versus their possible playoff components, which was everybody in the East. So in the West, I did the same thing, except I didn't calculate Minnesota and Colorado against each other because there's really no way they could play each other.
Okay.
Even in the second round or whatever. Only one of them is going to make the playoffs, right? And I did that specifically also because Minnesota is like 8-1-1 against Colorado, and it really throws off everything. Their winning percentage against Colorado is pretty crazy. So only 4 teams have an over 600 winning percentage when you do this against the teams that they could be playing. So that's definitely not. Boy, somebody wants to add me. It says somebody. Sorry, I just got the weird message on my thing. Anyway, so can you guess the 4 teams first of all? The 4 teams who have an over 600 winning percentage against the teams they could possibly be playing in the playoffs. So I'll let you start. I'm Dan.
Okay, so I'm going to go with Ducks.
The Ducks are number 3 with a 606 winning percentage.
Kings?
Nope.
Rangers. Were you talking about one matchup or all the matchups?
All the matchups. So these are against the other teams that are in the playoffs. This is how well they've done against the other playoff teams.
Washington.
Washington's number 1. So we're still looking.
We got the Ducks and we got the Capitals.
We need 2 and 4, Russ. Who do you think?
I mean, I guess I'll put the Rangers in there. They've been up and down, but go ahead.
The Rangers are number 13 on this list.
Wow. The Islanders?
The Islanders are number 12 on this list.
That's what I thought.
Knowing Act, there's going to be a couple surprises in here.
This is statistics. This is just like, and that's why.
But you wouldn't do
I
this.
write about this if it was not interesting.
Right, exactly.
The Kings?
The Kings are number. Let's see.
No, they're not. Okay.
No, they are. Yeah, the Kings are number 15 out of 18 on the list.
It's got to be somebody like.
So what? The Blackhawks are like 18. If they are, come on.
Right. It's got to be somebody like
number 9.
Somebody like Nashville or St.
I was gonna say Nashville, the Predators.
No, this is just flat out not. The Chicago has a a .555 winning percentage against the other teams in the playoffs. I'm doing this over the last 2 years. Okay, so I always do 2 years because I've found in the past that this matchup thing works best if you do this year and the year previous. So that's how, and that you get the best results for the playoff possibilities.
I'll say St. Louis.
Good guess. St. Louis is number 4.
I'll say Nashville.
Nope. Nashville is way down there, number 8.
The last one, is it East or West?
It's in the East.
Boston.
Boston is correct.
Protest, Russ?
Because
Boston
it's crazy.
What? No, this is crazy, but these are real numbers. I mean, I'm just talking about their record.
But this is the point. Statistics are crap.
No. This is the point, Mike. This is why then the Kings, by the way, the year they finished in 8th and won the Stanley Cup, which was, they were number 1 in this list going into the playoffs. Okay, they were 8th. They were 8th in their conference, but they were number 1. And the next year, the Hawks did it. They were number 1 on the list going. And they finished in first.
To your own estimation, last year, if the Flyers had made the playoffs, they would have had the best record because they played good against good teams and terrible bad teams.
No, they would have been up on this list, but they wouldn't have the best record. But this is not taking like the Islanders account. If you took the Islanders versus the teams making it in the playoffs in the West, they would be killing it. But the Islanders, these are teams playing teams they could play against in the playoffs.
And they've done well against the Metro. It's the Atlantic they've struggled against.
This is why my math teacher, when I was in school and in 8th grade, used to give kids noogies with
this
a
matters.
ring on. He used to give
matters,
noogies with
Russ.
a ring on. You know why? Because they were bored in math class. That's why.
Yeah.
This matters. You will not want to know then who wins the Stanley Cup based on the matchups right now.
I don't want to know.
Yeah.
All right, but we'll get to that.
Which
How's that for a teaser?
Which is the last team? Is it East or West?
All right, I
got it. It was Boston.
Let's start with number 1. Okay, Washington, number 1. We talked about that. .682 winning percentage, a plus 24 goal differential against teams that could play in the playoffs. That is by far, that's 40 points higher than the Bruins. That's really up there. Okay, the Caps, the teams who do the Caps want to play? The team the Caps have dominated the most this year, over the last 2 years, is oddly enough the second place team on this list, Boston. The Caps are 6-0 against Boston. Basically, if you took the Caps games out of this, Boston would be just absolutely ridiculous. Like they would be completely. They've gone 0-6 against the Capitals, however.
There's always
the Caps have also gone 5-0-2 against your Islanders, Dan.
Oh, I'm well aware.
And 5-1 against Tampa. So. But the teams the Caps want to avoid: the Rangers, 4-5 against the Rangers; Florida, 3-3; Philly, 3-2-2. So those are your teams. Those are your teams in Washington, and that we've seen pretty clearly. But Boston, this is crazy. Okay, they have a .639 winning percentage against these teams they could play. They have a plus, and they might not make the playoffs. I mean, this team is still very much in trouble. The plus 16 goal differential.
They're not in trouble, Ak. They played the toughest 5-game stretch of their season with the 3 road games in California, at the Rangers, and Florida. Now their schedule gets considerably easier. They beat Toronto in Toronto on Saturday night.
By a goal.
By 2 goals.
By 2 goals. They were down in that game.
Yeah.
As I was sitting in line at the airport, the Islanders and Bruins
I wouldn't want any part of the bottom dwellers the last week of the season.
Right. No, the bottom dwellers right now are horrible. They're killing everybody. I mean, this is not. I mean, Philly goes into.
Believe me, I've been a bottom dweller. I know what it's like.
Yeah.
What's it like down there?
I know what it's like to finish the season 10-2-1, and then all of a sudden pick 6 instead of 2.
And this is the problem. The Bruins, you're saying their schedule gets easier. What I'm saying here is they don't want to play easy teams. Over the last 2 years, they have been much better against tougher teams. They're 5-1 against Pittsburgh. They're 5-1 against the Islanders. They're 4-1 against the Flyers. They're 5-2-1 against Florida. And Boston has totally taken care of these tough teams. And they want to avoid are Washington, we talked about. The Rangers, they're 3-3 against. So.
And they're leading the NHL in road victories with 24.
Yeah.
So, I'm just telling you, Ak, the team that I saw on Saturday night in Toronto got a fortunate goal in the first period from Ben Smith, and then within the span of I think 5 minutes, Bergeron and Chara scored, and they pretty much shut down the Leafs. Which there's not a lot of offensive talent, a lot of inexperienced kids on that team. The Bruins are they're not the best team in the league. but they have enough of that veteran core left from those teams that made the Cup final and from the Cup victory in 2011 that they will get in. The team that I'm skeptical about, and I've said off the top, is Detroit, who got poleaxed by Pittsburgh on Saturday.
They did.
Well, Detroit on this list is number 18, okay, and they are the worst team left against teams that are in the playoffs. They're really struggled. The only team that they can play against is the Rangers. They're 3-0-2 against the Rangers over the last 2 years, but they don't want to play anyone else basically.
But the Rangers are so Jekyll and Hyde. Like I can't even go with these kinds of numbers to how a team matches up against them.
Yeah.
Honestly, even other than teams that we know that they have a mental edge on, like the Capitals, even this year, it would be a pick 'em just because you're picking the mental edge over a team that's clearly better than the Rangers, but you never know. I'm not buying the statistics. I'm not saying what you did wasn't worthwhile. I'm just saying I'm not a big believer in these kinds of statistics.
And that's totally fair, and it is completely fair. But
I think the most important thing going into the playoffs is the matchups. You can be some teams just clearly. I see it. The Islanders don't match up with some teams. The Rangers don't match up with some teams.
Let's look at the Islanders for a second. Let's go to the Islanders. Okay, the Islanders want to play the Rangers 6-2, the Penguins 5-2-1, and the Flyers 5-3. So those are three teams and those are three teams that the Islanders have a good chance of playing. You know, those are three teams that they have a really. Now the teams they don't want to play, they're 1-5 against Boston.
Yep.
They're 2-3-2 against Washington. That's still not terrible, but it's still, that's really 2-5.
No, the Capitals are going to beat the snot out of them. They run them like crazy.
Right, and they're 2-2 against Florida. So I mean, that you can say.
I'd take my chances with Florida or Tampa. I really would.
No, I think that's perfectly fair. In Tampa, they're dead even with.
Boy, I don't think you want to do that. I really don't. I mean, I think this Tampa team's going to change drastically when the playoff bell goes on, and Florida's just dangerous. I think the whole world is still undervaluing Florida.
I'm not saying. Look, I picked them to make the playoffs in the beginning of the year. I'm not saying they're bad, but if I have a chance to avoid the Capitals till the conference finals, I sign up for it.
Well, Tampa was sort of my dark horse to Washington in the East, but
what does that Strawman injury do for them?
Thank you. The injury to Strawman is a killer. I mean, I think he's.
But it's non-displaced, so I don't think he's done for the year. The non-displaced is not as bad.
Right, he may be out for a round or two, but still, it's going to be tough for them to get out and to get to the conference final without Strawman playing on the right side with Hedman. I mean, that's their top pairing, and it's going to be a challenge for them now.
Well, Tampa's a team. The Islanders Tampa would like to avoid the Islanders if all possible. That's one of their teams to avoid on their list. Them and the Tampa and the Caps.
Right.
But
you know what throws that, Eck?
Yeah.
If I'm the Islanders right now, I'm using Berube down the stretch. That's one thing. And you don't even have a record. Nobody has a record of Tampa against Berube because he hasn't played enough NHL games.
Right.
That's what sort of blows this.
No, that's true. No, Berube. I've thrown a new goalie in there, but do you really play Berube down the stretch?
Yes.
I don't think so. I don't think he can. I mean,
he plays on back-to-back games. That's what I would do.
Yeah. I mean, I think you got to go with Greiss still.
I don't think so. I think we know what Thomas Greiss is. Berube was always stuck behind somebody else. He was stuck behind Quick. Bernier before Quick. He never got a chance. Then Martin Jones moved up ahead of him. Meanwhile, he always had great goaltending coaches like Kim Dillabaugh, who's with the Flyers now, and he's done well in his games. He doesn't give away games. Not to say that Greiss gives them away, but I'm just saying teams don't know Berube well enough. He could be this year's Michael Leighton. I mean, you don't know.
No, that is actually fair. The teams do not know him. That is although it is tough to it would be a dice roll. It definitely would be.
And if you look at other situations right now, I mean, right now Detroit has no goaltender. Mrazek and Howard have been pulled for each other a couple times over the last week, so they're not getting great goaltending. Their offense is sort of mediocre at this point. I mean, they're in trouble, and like I said a few webcasts ago, I think they suffer from the fact that they have a new coach who is not cracking the whip like Babcock used to, and I think there's a little bit, there's injury problems there, but there's also, I think, complacency problems there. But then Philadelphia, I mean, Mason is the only guy. They haven't played Stolarz yet, and Russ was making the point when we were talking this morning, is the fact that they got to get Stolarz in there at some point. I
thought he was going to play against Arizona. I thought that was a perfect game to play in.
I thought so, too.
Mason's got an ice pack on his knee after games.
Yep.
That's one thing. Giroux got knocked out yesterday. That's another
thing. He's playing
thing.
tonight.
Yeah, he's playing, but I mean,
where is he at? Exactly, no. I agree.
But this is tough. I mean, it's getting tougher.
No, it's really tough. I mean, there's a lot of teams, and there's a couple teams collapsing. I mean, to finish off this list for a second, what I thought the most fascinating things on this list I'll give you quickly. 18 is Detroit, like I said, but number 17, who's the 17th worst team against the teams they're playing in the playoffs? This is crazy.
Chicago.
Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins only have a 500 win, but before last night they were less than 500 winning percentage against teams that they're playing in the playoffs. They win last night, right? And they're a minus 20 goal differential over the last 2 years against these playoff teams. I mean, they play well against Detroit. They play well against Florida, and they pretty much battle the Rangers evenly. But besides that, they've been all over the map.
The only thing I'd say about the Penguins is this last month is the Penguins team that you're going to see in the playoffs. Right.
No, this is
a team that played last year.
No, you're right. That's I mean, Pittsburgh's playing very well, but the team right above them in 16th place is Dallas.
I believe that.
Well, I believe that because their goaltending is, I would say, in spite of the fact that they're probably spending the most in the NHL on goaltending, their goaltending is slightly above average, and that's it. And their defense is not good.
Right.
Team-wise and on the blue line. So, that when they come up against, and without Sagan, we don't know what kind of percentage he's going to be at when the playoffs comes around. If he's not at 100% with a defense that's right, he can't.
They said he's 75% for his Achilles.
Right.
Yeah, right.
It's a 15% tear or something like, not 15,
25%.
I heard it like 15 or 20, not 75%, like an 80% good Achilles. Like that's
That's not good.
Terrible. No, I mean Dallas really desperately wants Colorado not to make the playoffs if they finish first. Like this is the issue with the New England because they played the one team they cannot. They're 1-5 versus Colorado.
Well, they don't have to worry because I think Colorado.
I think Colorado's on their way out, so we think we're probably fine there. But it's tough. I mean, Minnesota definitely did a big number on them. That 4-0 victory made them look like the better team for sure. But Minnesota is not incapable of falling apart on a moment's notice. So.
No, they're not. No.
But the loss of McKinnon, the loss of Duchesne, and then the loss when they were up 2-1 on Philadelphia, and Philadelphia came back with 2 goals in 16 seconds from Gudas and Giroux. Those are killers, and you don't get and you can tell that I think that's their mindset because they sent Rantanen back down to the AHL so he didn't burn the first year of entry level.
I would like to see that kid play more, especially with those stars injured. I don't get that.
If they and that's the thing, Dan. If they were going all out for the playoffs, they would say screw the entry level.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Well, right before the end of the show, I'll do what Russ really wants me to do, which is to run the matchups for the rest of the way and who would win the Stanley Cup right now based on teams playing each other. So I know you're going to be excited about that.
Oh yes.
But no.
Tomorrow I'm going to have my dog pick the Stanley Cup winners too.
You just have as good a chance. I mean, the thing is this though. The last 2 years I've done something. You can go back and research it. I've done this thing where I've tried to get everybody's first round prediction that I can find. Like every single outlet. I hired an intern to do it last year and the year before. Find everything you can anywhere on there. And then also the matchup. Who the matchup says it would win. The matchups have come in the top 10% every time. Like you're better off just betting who matches up well against anybody else than you are trying to actually pick these games. And that's these are experts like ourselves who I've been beaten every year in the first round by the matchups. That's why I started doing this. I started thinking this is kind of crazy that this actually plays into it. But I'll run through it right now for you guys for the Stanley Cup final. Then we'll move on to other news. Okay, so the first round matchups were they to end today? Okay, we would have the Flyers and the Capitals playing each other, and the Flyers would hold the edge in that one. So the Flyers have the edge over the Caps over the last 2 years. Florida has an edge over the Islanders. They would finish out. They're 4-1-1 against the Isles. You would take your chances, like you said, but I think they have shown to be
1-1-1 this year. I'd take my chances against them.
Yep, there you go.
Young team, first time in the spotlight.
Yep. The Rangers would take the Penguins because they're 4-2-2 over Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And then Tampa is 4-2-2 over Boston, so Tampa would beat the Bruins.
Right.
So your first round, the second round would be the Rangers and the Flyers. The Rangers would take the Flyers. They're 6-2-1 over the Flyers. Florida is 5-4 over Tampa, so Florida would take Tampa.
You have the Flyers beating the Caps.
The Flyers would
the math has
I'm
the
saying
Flyers
based on the matchups, based on who's won more games against each other.
This is the math. This is not Eck.
Yeah, this is flat out just the matchups, and yes, it's crazy to say, but nothing's impossible. The Caps.
I want to assassinate the math.
Yes.
Well, the Rangers then who are 5-1 against the Florida Panthers, would find their way to the Stanley Cup final.
Of course they would. Yeah, based on math.
Based on this, and they're going in the West. Minnesota is 5-2-3, would take out the Dallas Stars.
Yes, only if Isaac Newton was the coach of the team would they.
The Predators, who are 4-0-2.
He wasn't a mathematician.
The Predators would. Yes, he was. I know. Thanks, Dan. I was just gonna let that one go. The Predators are 4-0-2 over the Kings. So that's the one team the Kings don't want to play in the first round. When you look at how this thing flashes up, the Kings have had a tough time against the Preds. Chicago would take St. Louis. They're 5-4 over St. Louis. San Jose is 5-3-1 over Anaheim. San Jose would take Anaheim.
Of course they would. Sure.
All right. The second, Minnesota then, 6-3. The Wild would take the Blackhawks. Finally, revenge would be theirs.
Of course.
But they've played very well against Chicago the last 2 years in the regular season. Nashville holds the advantage over the Sharks, so we would see a Nashville, Minnesota, Craig Leopold final in the Western Conference.
I'm hyperventilating now.
Nashville would take that win, so we would.
The league would love that conference final. Woo!
I know. So Nashville would take the Wild because they're 5-3-1. So we would see the Rangers again, the Predators in the Stanley Cup final. And these teams have gone 2-2 over the last 2 years. So they've each won once, but I'm give this to the Rangers, who've scored more goals in those games. So the Rangers would win. The Rangers win the Stanley Cup. If things were, the Rangers would be favored in every series based on the matchups right now.
Just shoot me.
You laugh, but the 1 year I'm telling you, the first year the Kings won the Stanley Cup, it predicted the Stanley Cup final exactly right, and it was a crazy Stanley Cup final if you remember. So,
but that was only because the Kings were in a spot that they shouldn't have been in. It's just they ended up in that spot because of injuries and bad play down the stretch, and then they got hot right before the playoffs, They just limp in.
If the Rangers beat the Predators for the Stanley Cup Finals, I'll run over the Brooklyn Bridge in a Speedo.
All right. Just please don't. You'll see. I mean, it's going to change every day, of course, as the matchups change, but that's how it favors it right now. Anyway, you heard it here first, guys. Like we said, we like on this podcast to give you the news so you don't have to watch or pay attention in the future.
Is Albert Einstein centering that first Ranger line?
Yes.
Real quick. Well, by the way, one thing I did learn from this weekend, my God, the Canadians are a tire fire. They are terrible.
Yeah, they are.
Holy
that's why they're on the non-playoff wall there, Dan. Here.
The wall of shame.
They really are, and it's just
crowd
crazy.
On them too. My goodness, they had no patience for them.
Anybody who's measuring analytics, by the way, for that Rangers-Canadians game should not even post them. You should be embarrassed because that Canadians team didn't even show up. Like, they were just so awful. I know they scored a couple goals off of Ronta, but they were just so bad.
Yeah, Ronta wasn't even great, but he really wasn't tested.
He wasn't.
No.
All right, so we're going to go with this next story, which is a big rumor out of Russia, because we're a rumor website, but I knew, Mike, you'd want to talk about this. According to a Russian source, the Leafs are currently negotiating with
Radulov
and Zaitsev.
Well, Zaitsev apparently is a foregone conclusion. He's told teams, NHL teams that are interested, that he's signing with the Leafs. He's told them that going back to January. So that's no surprise. But the Radulov thing has been shot down by a couple people saying that they're doubting that this is going to happen. But he's 29 years old, going on 30. He's led CSKA Moscow 3 times in the last 4 years in scoring. It would be consistent with the Leafs, sort of. I told Russ this before. If the Leafs are going to try to be competitive next year, with the ratings being down, with maybe a little bit of discontent with them finishing at the bottom of the league and them wanting to be a little more entertaining and be more competitive. That is what would be central in them going after Steven Stamkos. That might also be central in them adding a player like Radulov, who won't cost them anything other than money, and they got plenty of room under the cap. The only thing is, there's been a lot of off the ice issues, not only in Nashville but also in Russia, and he seems to be a little bit of a loose cannon, and I don't know if that fits with Mike Babcock, but there's no doubting the talent. So I'm a little skeptical, but it's out there, and I had to report it, so I did.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting story, and Zaitsev.
Sorry, you froze
the
up there.
players.
What kind of player is Zaitsev?
I figured out for a second there. What the heck's going on? Sorry about that.
Yeah, you did. But Zaitsev, he's 24 years old, right-hand shot defenseman, has been in the KHL for 7 years. Decent size, I think 6'2", 200 pounds. Not known for his aggressiveness. He's more of an offensive defenseman, good skating ability. I've heard everything from he's definitely an NHL top 4 to he's a 5'6", but he's 24 years old, and with the Leafs in their current situation right now,
why not?
Why not exactly? They probably get him on a 1 or 2 year deal, and if they do that, then they can Babcock can work with them. I mean, I have to give Babcock a lot of credit. The one thing that I think has been a lot of progress has been shown is the way he's worked with Morgan Riley this year. Gave him a lot of minutes, but didn't give him time on the power play. He put him on the penalty kill, and he put him at 5-on-5 because he knows he's got really good offensive tools. And why do you have? He doesn't need to work there. He needs to work at the other end of the ice, Ross.
Yeah, I think Zaitsev will be slightly better than Medvedev because of age.
Right.
But Medvedev actually skates better than a guy of his age. It's hard for these guys to fit in. A, there's a language barrier with most of them. B, they're trying to learn a completely different system. So, like, even when Medvedev came into camp, everything was new. It's really hard for a guy like that to just sort of step in and do something. So when you hear top 4, it's an impossibility. It's an impossibility from a Russian defenseman to walk into the NHL and be a top 4. It will never happen, only because of the differences that they have to overcome. There's no way Babcock would even trust him enough to put him in a top 4 just to start a season. You could work into it, but there's no way otherwise.
Yeah, they may start him up, because of the language and communication barrier. One thing, they do have a Russian defenseman in Renat Valiev, a young guy who they've played the last 15 games. There's been some speculation that if they did bring over Zaitsev, that because of the fact they're both Russian, one's a left shot D, one's a right shot D, that they would play them together, and maybe that would be something that would work out. But he did come over to Canada last year. He did speak with Shanahan and with Babcock. I don't know if that means he has conversational English or if there's a language barrier. There are players on the team like Leo Komarov and Shashnikov who do speak Russian and do speak English, although Shashnikov doesn't speak it that well. But there's the ability to communicate, so that might help things along. And the fact that he is only 24. So, but yeah, I don't think they're going to throw him in on the top pairing with Morgan Riley. I think he's probably going to start in a lesser role, and then they'll see where it goes. But they say he has the level of talent to be a top 4 defenseman.
So I'm getting texted now. What I'm being told from Russia is that Zaitsev is a guarantee, and Radulov is really just chatter. That's all it is.
And that's what I said in my because Radulov he's not I don't know if you would characterize it as a UFA, but his contract is up with CSKA Moscow, and as we saw last week from what happened with Kovalchuk, he's a free agent. He's going to go sign with the KHL team that's playing, the expansion team that's playing in China. I mean, Radulov might be trying to just get more money out of Moscow, so this could be a ploy just to do that.
I do get the impression from talking to people who know Radulov pretty well from down in Nashville that he does like playing in the KHL. He sort of has figured out that is his home and that's his place. Yeah. And he's a big part of the Russian team. He's going to be a big part of the World Cup of Hockey. He'll be there. He'll be a major player in that as he was in the Olympics. But yeah, I would be surprised. And not to say that he's with Lou Lamoriello, you never know. You could sit there and you say, okay, is he a Lou Lamoriello guy? No, not on the surface. But at the same time, Lou does sometimes like to take chances on guys like that.
But Kovalchuk wasn't a Lou guy, even though I think the ownership in New Jersey was more attuned to bringing Kovalchuk to New Jersey.
He did turn into a Lou guy, though.
He did. Yeah, he did.
He really did.
Like I said, for one or 2 year deal, I think it's not going to cost a ton. I don't think. Right. The way the Maple Leafs are, in need of talent, I don't think I think it's a low risk.
I mean, it all depends on what Radulov thinks the financial situation in the KHL is and how unstable it is.
Yeah.
If he's scared that things are going to collapse, I mean, CSK Moscow is one of the more stable franchises there, but the league itself is not exactly.
Yeah, and they're about to be eliminated from the playoffs too. So,
but there's a lot of pressure on him by Russia to stay there too. Don't get yourself. I mean, he's part of the league not collapsing. You know, like that. It sort of goes beyond that. They've asked him to stay there, and he's made enough money in his life. He's made a ton of money that he can wait it out. I think until it collapses. I think he's one of the ones who will stick it out till the end.
Heck, not to change the subject, but have you heard anything, any updates, maybe Russ, you too, on Jimmy Vesey?
There's no update. The update is Vesey will tell them when he feels like telling them. The telling part about that is they're in a playoff race, right?
Right. He could be in their top 6 right now.
Correct, but that's the thing. So if you're taking time to figure out if you're going to be in their top 6, that means you're not really going there.
Right, and this is the thing. This is the thing, Dan, because I was up in Toronto on Saturday and I was talking about this with a few reporters. What is there to wait for if you're Jimmy Vesey?
Right.
There's no negotiating point here. It's not like he's going to get more money. It's an entry-level deal. The only flexibility here when it comes to his contract is the bonus package. And if David Poile is giving him a lower bonus package, he should be fired right this second, because you give this guy anything he wants to sign in Nashville. Now
it seems like Poile's like bent over backwards for him. It's just it doesn't seem like VC wants to play there, which is just puzzling. Okay, maybe he gets to choose where he wants to go, but this situation's a good one. They need a skilled forward. Yeah. He could be a skilled forward. They're in a playoff hunt. It's a great city. I don't get it.
Well, that statement that the Predators released on Saturday, to me, was the warning bell to VC saying, sorry, folks. Because, honestly, there's all I'm saying, I'm sure Poile offered the most that he can offer, and if VC didn't jump at it the day after Harvard was eliminated, then he's not going. Now, I can't say definitively, and you never know, things could change, but I think what's going to outweigh the opportunity to play he can play in a top 6 anywhere.
Anywhere.
Just here's an example, okay? I just got an email from the Rangers. Kristoffer Nieves just signed with them. His team's out. Yeah. This is the usual time frame that it happens in.
Right.
Now, Jankowski's different. Jankowski's different because he literally could wait until August 15th because there's no Calgary playoffs, so there's no real rush there.
Right.
He's still not going to wait that long. He still said 48 hours, but I get his waiting. VC, if you really wanted to be there, you'd be in that lineup instantly, and because it's going to take a little while for Laviolette to figure out what kind of player he is and where he wants to play him. If he takes 3 or 4 days to figure out, yes, I want to go, then Laviolette's going to have like 3 games left in the season to figure out what to do with him and possibly play him in the playoffs. That's kind of tough.
Right.
If we get to the end of the week and he still hasn't signed, he's not signing.
It's weird. It seems like a perfect situation for him.
It's going to be
in the playoffs. I didn't think there was any way he could play in the playoffs.
Oh, he could play in the playoffs. Sure,
he could play in the playoffs.
I thought he had to be signed by the deadline.
No, he could. No. With a college guy who's
a college guy, you can. Okay.
Prospect.
Yeah, Chris Kreider did it.
Yeah, he could sign after the end of the regular season and jump into the lineup right away if he wanted.
But again, here's another example. Chris Kreider literally signed the minute BC was out of it in the locker room that moment, joined the Rangers, and then was in that playoff run.
And 10 minutes later, he ran a goalie.
Listen, you've been in Montreal too long. But the point is,
it's not just Montreal where he's run goalies. Come on, Rob.
I don't think he did that on purpose. I really don't.
I'm not saying the Price one was on purpose.
Run goalies, yes,
because it's a bit of a history of making contact with the goalie.
Since then, he has continued that trend. Yes, he has.
Yes,
but no, you're right. Okay, so I am scheduled to talk to Nashville later today, so I hopefully will have something on this by tomorrow. As far as and I've got a feeling, if it's falling apart, we'll know about it.
Yeah, because some of these usually
they're not.
Yeah, exactly. If it's falling apart, they're going to hold things close to the vest because
I've been told that they could trade him by the end of the year, even but even though because he's in a situation he can't obviously play if he's traded.
No, they can trade his rights, sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I bet they do too.
I do think they will hold on to his rights till the very end.
Stinks for Nashville.
But there's no reason not to.
I think they'll hold on to his rights till closer to the draft. But the thing is that you have an asset here. There's a time limit on it, so it doesn't mean all of a sudden they're going to convert Jimmy Vesey into a first-round pick.
Oh no, I know, but there is there might be more value to not hold him out to the draft right now because if you can put him on somebody who needs him right now, that's possible that there is actually more benefit to him being that he can play in the playoffs.
I don't know. Well, I was going to say, I don't think you can trade his rights and then the other team sign him and play for another team in the playoffs.
I don't think you can do that either.
I will never understand the CBA. I'm sorry.
If you trade his rights, the only thing that he could do is sign an ATO with an
right.
ATO.
He can only
right.
All right. Okay. Well, I will find out one way or the other. I will know more about this.
If he signs an ATO, could he be called up for an emergency call-up?
No. He cannot.
Calgary has a better chance of signing Jankowski, but
Yes.
again, I still think that's 60-40. That's not happening, only because he probably would have signed already if he really wanted to. Now he's probably looking at his options.
It's usually a 24 to 48 hour window after losing.
Yeah,
if you're gone, or if you're even if you're undrafted, you're usually signed within a 1 or 2 days.
I'm fairly confident in saying if VC doesn't sign by the end of the week, he's not signing with Nashville. And if he doesn't sign with Nashville, he will not make August 15th as a UFA. His rights will be traded, and he'll be signed by the team that trades his rights. Because Nashville is not going to let him go for nothing. They're going to get something for him, and they could probably get as much as a second-round pick for him. So I think that's the way it's going to happen.
Second or third, I think that's fair.
I was thinking third, yeah.
Lots of hockey, lots of rumor news today, considering we are where we are. Daniel Pribble's another player I've been hearing stuff about. I got a text about this just a little bit ago.
The Montreal draft pick, I believe.
Yep. But he is. There's a couple teams that are interested in him. Nashville, among them. Calgary's in there too. Pittsburgh's in there as well. I've heard Buffalo's in there as well. So there's at least 4 teams. Depending on who, there could be as many as 10. I mean, Daniel Pribble's a UFA, right? He's a 23-year-old. He plays in the KHL now?
Sparta Praha. Yeah, so KHL.
The KHL, right? Yeah, so what do we know about him, Russ?
I don't know anything about him.
Yeah,
all right.
He's a skilled forward.
I'm honest. Like, I don't try.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I mean, it's amazing how many teams are interested in him. I don't know if this is like a situation where, he's 6'3". I've just been told. I just got his basics. It said why you're interested in me. Someone
Remember
says
this time last year, a couple of months down the road from this time last year, how Moses was the hot player. And
right. Very hot. Very hot last year, Moses.
But the thing is, Moses was the hot player, and a guy like Nikita Shashnikov, who nobody had heard of, had slipped underneath, and the Leafs had signed him as a 21-year-old. And now a year later, Shashnikov plays for the Leafs and has played very well until he got hurt. So this is where like all the scouting and all that work is being done, and the gems are being picked off by teams. Now I heard something about Montreal going after one of the KHL forwards, Slipashev, who.
Funny,
Slipashev I know about.
I heard of Evgeny Dadonov. It was another one.
Dadonov, the thing about Dadonov is
former
I remember him from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I do too.
I don't know if he's an NHLer. I don't. Slepashev has NHL attributes for sure. Right. He does have really good speed, a really good stick. So I'm going to actually go back and look at Dadonov now on my scouting because I remember him.
Yeah, and there's a couple other KHLers. I know that like I wrote in an article a couple weeks ago about a Russian kid who plays for a Ekaterinburg named Golashev, a smaller player, really.
What a great name.
Yeah, Golashev. It'd be
Golashev.
Perfect. Yeah, but he's like 5'9" and 170 pounds, but he's incredibly lightning quick, great skill. So it's like one of these guys who fits in with, the more openness towards smaller players. But I think the funny thing is that this is the time of year not only for the KHL guys, not only for the, guys from the Swedish league, the Lithuanian male model goaltender that the Leafs were supposedly interested in. We haven't heard anything about that. But all these college free agent goaltenders and other players. Yeah. There's Alex Lyon from Yale. Yale just got eliminated over the weekend.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. he was.
But who didn't? You know who didn't? Did not get eliminated.
Yeah, we know.
That's right. Yes. Quinnipiac University, Frozen Four.
Heck, I'll tell you what I had on Slepashev, then I'll let Mike continue.
Yeah.
The one negative on him was, like in the World Juniors, in his World Junior year, he just couldn't finish, and that was a problem for him.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, the thing is, all these players who haven't been signed to this point, who are college free agents, who are unrestricted free agents that are in the KHL, there's some reason why they weren't drafted. So you can't expect all of a sudden to find yourself a top 6 forward or a top 2 defenseman or a goaltender who's a number 1. I mean, Alex Lyon may have an NHL career, but if you look at what the Leafs did over like the last 5 years signing college free agent and European free agent goaltenders, Ben Scrivens is a success story, and he's mostly been a backup goaltender coming out of Cornell. And Jonas Gustafsson, who had ridiculous numbers in the Swedish league, he's a success story, even though he's never been a starter in the NHL. But all the other ones were AHL or ECHL goaltenders who did nothing. So that you're getting maybe roster fillers, and at best you're getting backups. You're not getting starters.
But they're worth the shot because it's not.
They are worth the shot.
If anything, they could. You never know. Even if they're a solid AHL player, you're giving yourself some organizational depth for a low cost.
Now, the thing that was
really good stories because they've worked really hard. They weren't drafted. They came through, and to me that I like talking about them, and I think that. You're not, like you say, there's a reason they didn't get drafted, but sometimes, like we talked about before, the 18-year-old draft can be weird. So, this could be it could be anything. The other thing I wanted to mention too is before we get out of here is the Yakupov rumors, okay, where and this is Yakupov admitting in a Russian paper that he asked for a trade and even had his agent speak to other teams.
And his agent was interviewed this afternoon on Sportsnet and said at some point he needs a fresh start. So pretty much an admission that it's not worked in Edmonton, it's not going to work, and they basically have to fish or cut bait. And I think they're probably there's going to be a deal. He will not be in Edmonton next year. I think that probably Ryan Nugent-Hopkins won't be there either. There's going to be a cleaning out of some of these players. I just think the ones that are safe are Hall, McDavid, and Draisaitl. I don't see Eberle having a lock on staying there, and I think Nugent-Hopkins and Yakupov are gone.
I would have blogged over the weekend. Go ahead.
All right, so he did well under Ralph Kruger, right? But Ralph Kruger also gave him top power play minutes, and everything you would expect Yakupov to have. The minute Dallas Eakins came in, that all went away. He turned into a fourth liner. I spoke to him through a translator when he was going through the Dallas Eakins stuff, and he was really bummed out because he was trying his hardest, but he's on the fourth line. He wasn't getting power play, so he wasn't getting anything. So he had that playing around with his head for 2 years. So then this year they sort of move him into a little better of a position, and then McDavid gets hurt, and then they don't move him back with McDavid.
And then he got hurt too.
And so this is when all this happens to a young player who, I got to tell you, the guy can still play defense, he's still fast, he still has a great shot, but now it's all up here. Yep. And this is what happens when you rush a young player. And now he may be at the point where he needs a couple more seasons just to get out of that funk. And so he'll definitely be out of Edmonton, but it's not like this guy couldn't play or can't play. It's just they did this to him.
Yeah.
Now, if he's young enough, obviously still, and he's someone who has to be in a top 6 role. That's what he was drafted for. He wasn't drafted first overall to be a checking center, a checking winger. I mean,
he has to go someplace, Dan, that allows him to be the offensive talent that he is. And if he goes someplace and he has the right coach and is in the right position, he'll be fine. If he goes someplace with a closed-minded coach or somebody who's an authoritarian, I think it ruins him.
Russ, what do you think about? And I'm just throwing things out here. What do you think about him next to Tavares? Would you take that shot?
Yeah, I would take the shot, and depending on who the coach is that does that, because it's probably not going to be Capuano.
Probably not. No, probably not.
I think that's a really good shot because he does sort of need that chance, and he really can keep up with him skating-wise, and he is a hard worker. Nobody in Edmonton complains about his work ethic. That's not the issue.
Right.
You also got to think about this kid. Not only is he young, not only is he going through all this where he's been put onto other lines and playing out of position sometimes, he's also speaking through translators. He is like in the middle of this whole cultural change. Right. He's in Edmonton.
Hey, Grabowski could help him.
I was going to say, and that's the thing. It's like you have Grabowski and Kuhlman there as You know, and there was talk back when Yakupov was drafted that Kuhlman was on the block, and that the Oilers were looking to trade for Kuhlman because they wanted a Russian speaker who could act as a sort of Yakupov being the protege and Kuhlman being the guy who was the more elder statesman who could help him. I think he still needs that, but the question is, if the Islanders are going to trade for him? Is it Hamonic? I mean,
I wouldn't do that deal straight up.
Well, no, there had to be more to it, but I think that's what Edmonton would be looking for, is a guy like Hamonic.
Oh yeah, I still think that if Edmonton is serious about getting better, they have to acquire Travis Hamonic because they have a tough time signing free agents. It's not like free agents are rushing there. This is a guy who's under contract at an affordable cap price. Edmonton should be bending over backwards to get Hamonic.
But the understandable one, and you reported this one a couple months ago, was Yakupov to Montreal, because Galchenyuk now playing center, and he played with Galchenyuk, I think it's in Sarnia. I think, wasn't it Sarnia?
And there's more pressure on Montreal to do that trade now than there even was then.
Absolutely, that looks like that could be a good fit too.
The question is, what defenseman coming back? Like, they want a defender coming back. Who are you looking at? You know.
Nathan Beaulieu.
No, I wouldn't. I don't know if they would give Beaulieu, but I mean they might. They might give Below. I mean, it's possible. Here's the thing, though, and this is something that we never look at, but I hear it time and time again. When you draft a Russian player, if you're going to put him in the league right away, you better have somebody else Russian on that team to, basically help him through the culture.
Yeah.
Especially if he's not a guy that's been in North America for very long. Right. And even though he did play in Sarnia, he didn't speak any English, and he definitely needed assimilating, and it was a problem. The same thing with Buffalo and Grigorenko. They totally screwed up Grigorenko with that.
Absolutely.
And if you go and look at Colorado, I'm not telling you Grigorenko's playing the way you thought he'd play, but he is putting up points.
Yes, he's improved greatly.
Yeah. And one of the things, I know that for a fact, when Soshnikov came up with Toronto, Leo Komarov was very valuable to that because he speaks Finnish, he speaks Russian, he speaks English. I think he speaks 4 or 5 languages, and he helped with interviews after games with them. So you have basically a guy who can really help out, and that's one of the valuable things about Komarov being on the Leafs. So say, Russ.
Plus the Russian influence, the Russian culture in Brooklyn would really help.
That's huge. That's hugely important. And I think that's why I would.
He would feel at home.
Who was the kid from Columbus who ended up on the Rangers for that same reason? He was a big busted Russian kid who spoke plenty of English.
I know who you're talking about, but
who was that?
It was the Islander draft pick.
No, I think it was the Columbus.
No, it was the Columbus draft pick. Like one of their first, maybe their first draft pick.
It was the Josh Bailey draft. Wow, because I know
I'm gonna say it was like Columbus's first pick ever.
People wanted him.
You're talking. Oh, okay, wait.
Not Filatov.
Filatov, yeah.
Filatov. You're talking about.
I was talking Filatov. Yes.
I was talking. Yeah, it was Filatov.
Yeah, because he moved and ended up moving to the Rangers, right? And they went to the Rangers.
No.
He went right back to the KHL.
He did.
No, not Filatov then. Who am I? You're right.
Jaredev. You're talking about Jaredev.
Oh, Jaredev. That's it. You're right.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah. And that was and it helped. It helped him when he moved to go to New York.
Oh, but also, I thought you were talking about the former Islanders first-round pick who did play for the Rangers this preseason. Last name starts with a K. I'm forgetting his name from only a few years ago. And the Islanders drafted him like second round, and he never played for them. I thought that's who you meant.
Yeah, no, okay. So
Kirill Habanov?
Kirill Kabanov.
Kabanov, correct.
Yeah, there's a reason why he's not in the NHL. I'll tell you what when we're off the air. No, I don't want to say it over.
There's lots of stuff. So so tonight let's get into tonight's schedules because we've got a lot of and then we'll move on to the NHL Draft Simulator. So going to NHL.
Okay, Tampa beat Toronto. There you go.
Tampa's been a problem, but I think that Toronto should be okay there.
Well, no, okay.
Getting the schedule up here. All right, so we talked about Winnipeg and Philly. That's a big one. Obviously, Giroux playing despite concussion concerns. That's really scary.
He better be cleared.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wouldn't be surprised if he's.
No, knowing Hextall, I'm sure he's fine. Like I can't.
I'm sure he's fine. Like he cleared the testing.
But
he's not going to be the same player.
Right. I mean, he was very good on the road trip. He scored goals in consecutive games before Arizona. Columbus and Washington, Buffalo and Detroit. This is a game Detroit has to win. This is like the
Detroit
big.
has to win that game.
Buffalo has been playing well lately, and
this is a tough match. I would not. If I'm the Red Wings, I want no part of this matchup tonight.
Buffalo beat Winnipeg on the weekend. Hudson Fasching, who recently signed, they got him from L.A. in the Braden McNabb deal a couple years ago. Scores his first NHL goal. Eichel's back. Brian Hart's back. They're playing well.
Yeah, I like Fasching. Fasching and Eichel know each other really well. It's kind of surprising that Bilesma hasn't put them together. But again, I've always questioned Dan Bilesma and his line combination.
I don't think he wanted to put him in his first NHL game. Just put him right with Eichel. You know what I'm saying? It's like but
there's familiarity.
Yeah. Well,
it's not like Buffalo's playing for the playoffs.
Evander Kane has been playing well with Eichel recently. Maybe he just doesn't want to mess that up. He wants to get Kane that 50 goals that you said he wasn't going to get, Russ.
Is he going to get 50 points?
Probably not.
Yeah. Now here's the other one.
He has played better the second half of the season.
He has.
Yes. Crazy. So then, of course, we had, that's basically it for the playoff implication games. Although Colorado's in Nashville, that's Colorado is still hanging on. Obviously, they can
mathematically, but
that's a must win for the Avs.
Yeah, I think they're done. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, and the San Jose Sharks are home against the Kings with like the third or fourth chance to clinch a playoff spot. Like the San Jose Sharks are keeping the Arizona Coyotes around. Like the Coyotes have won 3 games in a row. The Sharks have lost 3 in a row. So obviously at this point, now the Kings are in San Jose tonight. It's a tough one. Arizona has, I think, Calgary. They've got a relatively.
Can we just eliminate the Sharks from the playoffs so nobody has to pick them to win even a round?
I'm not going to do that.
Not one San Jose Shark will end up on my playoff hockey pool. Not a one.
Well, anybody pick a San? I mean, Joe Thornton's a good pick. He'll get some points, but it's the playoffs. He won't get a lot.
You take Brent Burns.
Yeah, you take Brent Burns.
You have to.
You always have to take one guy who gets eliminated in the first round, and I would take Brent Burns because defensemen usually don't score that much.
Yeah, exactly. Usually, if you're doing your standard pool where you have to take one player from each team, you have to take so many defensemen, so many goalies. Right. You take those defensemen. If you lose them in the first round, it's not the end of the world.
We've already know that San Jose has a 5-3-1 record against the Anaheim Ducks.
That's right. Numbers never lie.
That's the name of my Met book, by the way. People can go pick it up at Amazon. Numbers don't lie. Seriously. Do you really have any confidence in the San Jose Sharks at this point?
No, I don't have any. But this is the thing about the Sharks, though. It all comes down to goaltending, right? So the Sharks, It all comes down to goaltending. So
and he picked them to win the division, and they're making the playoffs. So
they're making the playoffs.
They're not winning the division.
They're not going to win the division.
No, I picked them to miss the playoffs. I think we all picked them to miss the playoffs.
I think Martin Jones has been a good pick. I think that and I like their goaltending.
Once in a while, Eck is right. I mean, he's the Kari Ramo for Vezina didn't work out, but this did.
There's actually
to win the Vezina.
There's actual discussion right now about them going more with James Reimer and possibly going with James Reimer in the playoffs.
Yeah, wow. It's possible. I mean,
what are they thinking? I mean, then why did you? If you've traded for James Reimer and now you're going to hand him the #1 goalie spot, if I was a goalie, I would never sign with the San Jose Sharks because
didn't they give a first-round pick?
Poorly.
Didn't they give a first-round pick for Martin Jones?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow. What does this say if you're really going to do this? They can't do this. They can't.
No,
I would think that they would go with Jones, but let's just say, there are baseball pitchers who have a slow hook or a quick hook. Martin Jones is on a quick hook.
That's fine. I'm okay with that. But if you don't even start with Martin Jones, then why did you give up a first rounder for him? Seriously.
You're going to go with a hot hand. That's the end of the day. If Reimer's playing better going into the playoffs, you're going to go with Reimer. I mean, he's been playing very well for them lately, and he has ability, no question about it. He was good for the Maple Leafs too at times, I mean, he's got the ability to do it. I mean, what he does in the playoffs or no, we don't know. Neither of these guys is really playoff tested, like Martin Jones sat on the bench for a lot of playoff series, but didn't play a whole lot.
He watched his team win a cup. That's something.
Yeah, Tuukka did the same thing.
Right. So I mean, as this plays out, I mean, San Jose. They're I can't put any but always betting on them is always horribly unsatisfying, but at the same time
always lose on them.
I know but they are a team that they have not been dominated by anybody in the Western Conference, and they play every team tight, every game is close. Thornton And it's one of those years, like I always say, you think about these teams that finish in first in the division, and like Sharks have done that plenty of times. And
when I ran my head into the wall and I wake up and they've defeated like the Kings or the Sharks to get to the Western Conference Finals, I'll believe it.
I can't fall for the Sharks trap anymore, and I can't fall for the Blues trap anymore. I'm sorry, I can't. They got to show me. They got to show me something.
And I still have, and maybe this year will prove me wrong. I still have a natural hesitancy for
the Capitals.
Caps trap because
I know.
I know that Justin Williams is there and Braden Holtby's one of the best goalies in the league, but until they prove it to me, they're still the same choke artists that they've been the last decade.
Holtby's been very, very average the last month. Just throwing out there.
The whole team has, but they have nothing to play for.
Mike Richards has 1 point. That's an important point.
It is an important point. But Mike Richards in a playoff series could be.
He'll have 2 points in the playoffs. He'll double his output.
That's true. All right, let's go to the Toronto Lottery Simulator. Very ornery on Monday today.
We have all this built-up angst from
I come back expecting to be welcomed with open arms. My blog is torn to shreds. All right, here we go. Picking a winner with the NHL Lottery Simulator. The Edmonton Oilers. Everyone wins.
I'm like hiding underneath the desk if that happens. I'm sorry.
Next up, the Buffalo Sabres.
When that happens.
The Calgary Flames. So Toronto is just lucky enough to get fourth.
The rule will change the next day. It will.
It has to. It will have to.
It should have changed already. It's unbelievable to me. I mean, they should have changed it after Yakupov. They should have changed so long ago. It's crazy. Anyway, that's all the time. We'll be back tomorrow with more to talk about for sure. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you soon.